My name is Cameron Wood. I'm here with Mr. Doug Pratt at the Lakewood Public Library in Cleveland, Ohio. Today is March 28th, 2022. Mr. Pratt, can you please say and spell your name for us?
My first name is Doug, D-O-U-G. Last name is Pratt, P-R-A-T-T.
Thank you. Where and when were you born?
I was born February 6, 1956 in Cleveland, Ohio.
What was it like growing up in Cleveland, Ohio?
What was it like growing up in Cleveland? Well, first of all, when I was born, I was a preemie. I only weighed 3 pounds and 5 ounces. I was in the incubator for a month, they told me. So I'm thankful to be here, and I realized the universe wanted me to be here. Growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, back in the 50s and 60s, I will say this: I did not realize I was gay until I was 22 years old. Prior to that, one of the worst things you could be in my community was, as the terms were called back then, a punk, a sissy, or funny. Those were the worst things you could be in my community. I can recall my first crush, which was when I was 6 years old. I remember we were in Miss Carroll's class, first grade class, and we took a piece of paper and we called ourselves hiding from the class, and we decided to kiss. So we kissed right in front of the whole class. The class burst out laughing, and I remember Miss Carroll saying, "What are you doing?" And we said nothing, and we kissed again. The beautiful thing about that was, after that incident, nobody made any statement or argument about it or made fun of us. Mrs. Carroll didn't make a comment. I think now in today's society, it might be a totally different thing. There might have been a lot of picking, bullying, etc., and all that. That's how I see it now. My next incident with a boy was when I was, I say about 11 years old. Me and Terry used to meet in the cloakroom, and we would rub up against each other. And that was our form of showing how we felt of each other. And then we would kiss. Well, one day when we were doing this, a classmate of ours, she was a girl, she walked in and she looked and she walked out. So neither one of us thought much of it. But not too long after that incident, the girl that walked in, I saw Terry was doing the same thing with her. And I remember getting very hurt, and I realized I was jealous, okay? So those were my two associations with boys being boys or what have you and all that. I did not associate it with being gay at the time. I didn't know anything about that, you know? So years later, I say about when I was 22, that's when I noticed that I was staring at men harder than women. So I knew something was going on. I would look at a man and I would look at his feet, his hands, his walk, and that would turn me on. I could feel myself getting excited and all that. And then I realized something's going on with me. And then I realized that I was gay, okay? So when I realized that I was gay, I started going to the bars. Some of the bars that I was going to back then was called like the Etc., Mr. Henry's, the Thrill on the Hill, Trips, Tracks. Those were some of the bars that I went to. Now, the interesting thing about this is that there was segregation among the black gays and the white gays. When you went to the white bars, you had to show like 5 pieces of identification to get in, okay? That was the rule, okay? All right. Now, the disco scene was in vogue, and I was doing my dancing, etc. I was doing it freestyle, and that's the beautiful thing. When you're in the clubs, the gay clubs, you can freestyle, there's no problem. I would also go to the straight bars, such as the Delta Club, Disco Lights, City Lights. But if you dance freestyle, they will look at you like you had 2 heads on you. And so they kind of discourage you from doing that. And I realized I didn't feel comfortable with going to the straight clubs as I did with the gay clubs, because the gay clubs, They didn't judge you. They accept you for who you were, what have you, and all that. So I realized that I'm a gay man, and I decided to tell my parents. My parents had divorced not too long after I was born, about 2 years. They stayed together about 2 years, and then they got a divorce. So I tell my mother, and she's visibly upset. You know, she doesn't like it. And she calls me because I'm living on my own. She calls me and she says she could introduce me to different women in the church. And I said, no, mother, but I'll tell you what, if you introduce me to Deacon so-and-so, then it'll be on. And she just says, oh, Douglas, you're mannish. And she hangs up the phone. We never discussed me being gay ever again. Now, when I told my father, it was a different story because he never thought I was gay. He was disappointed, I could tell, and he didn't like it. And he was concerned whether I would start wearing dresses. And I said, Dad, that's not me. That's not the type of gay man I am. I wear pants and all that, and that's how it is, you know. So there it is. We never talked about me being gay, which I think is sad. So we just left it alone. The interesting thing about it is that later on, as Dad got older, I think he was changing in about his view for people being gay. One day we were watching television together, and there was a comment made, and he said, well, they really don't know, do they, Doug? And I said, no, they don't, son. And I realized he had become more understanding about me being gay, which was a beautiful thing. One thing he told me before he passed, he said, son, live your life. And I thought that was so beautiful and so touching. Years later, about when I was 32, I met this guy. And this guy, how he reeled me in, as I'll say, is he started buying me gifts and all that. His name was Ahmad. He lived in Akron, Ohio, and he would come up to Cleveland to visit me. Later on down the line, maybe within 6 months, I end up moving to Akron to live with him. When I moved, I found out his real personality. He was possessive, he was jealous, controlling. We always did things together. He got upset. One thing I remember, he went somewhere, I believe, to visit his brother. I decided, okay, I've got the key. I had the key to the back door of the house. That's the only key I had. I never had the key to the front door. So I'm going to go to the Akron Library and get some videos for us. Okay? So I check out about, I think at the time you could check out, I think about 6 or 7 of them. So I checked them out. When I came home, he said, where were you? Where were you? And I told him, I got us some VHS tapes so we can watch. And he said, don't you know somebody could have raped you? Don't ever do that again. And I'm thinking, why is he thinking that? And instead of him saying, baby, thank you for getting the tapes for us to watch and all that, he would throw something negative. Again, like I said, we did things together. Whenever I wanted to visit my relatives in Cleveland, there would be an issue. There would be truly an issue. We get into arguments and all that. I started to realize something's going on and I'm not happy. So I started thinking, I need to get out of this relationship. So in the spring of 1987, I had a talk with him. I said, Ahmad, it's not working. It's over between the two of us. So I tell you what, tomorrow I'm going to pack my little stuff and I'm going to move back to Cleveland. That night he said, okay, baby, okay, all right. So the next day we wake up, I've taken a bath and all that, getting myself together to leave. I gave him the key to the back door of the house, which was the only key I had to the house. All of a sudden he flipped the script and he says, you're not going anywhere. The phone rings and he looks at me and say, and when I get off this phone, we're going to fuck. So I'm thinking in my mind, Oh no, I am done. I've just turned the key to him, the only key I had. How can I get out this house? So what I did was I opened the living room window. I went out the living room window. That night, I spent it in an Akron homeless shelter. I had made up my mind. I said it's not working out or anything like that. Okay. I get back to Cleveland. Okay. I am basically homeless. You know, I didn't at the time let my parents know that I was back in town because I kind of felt ashamed, sad, disappointed because the relationship didn't work out. I had moved all my belongings and stuff there. Okay. Um, so during the time that I was in Akron with Ahmad, I found out that I was HIV positive. I was going to a support group. The woman told me about a group that was in Cleveland, Ohio, an agency, which is called the Ohio's Health Issues Task Force at the time. And she told me about that agency. She said they help people who are HIV positive. I got connected with them and they helped me to find a place. They said they would pay for the first month's rent and the security deposit. Okay. So I move into the place one day, and then I'll never forget, I had become friendly with the mailman. The mailman said, there's a man who's been lurking in your building, so be aware. I knew it was Ahmad. Okay? Well, lo and behold, one day I come home and on my door, it was a wooden door. There was only 2 apartments in that building, just 2. On my door, he had written, Doug Pratt is a fag. Okay? It's a fag. Oh my goodness. I was very heartbroken. Very heartbroken. So I said, I've got to nip this in the bud. Okay? So I called him and he said, baby, are you coming back? Are you coming back? I said, you've been coming down here and stalking me, haven't you? They didn't call it stalking back then, but now that's the term. Okay? And he said, yes, baby, come back. I love you. I want you back and all that. I said, Ahmad, it's over. And I said this to him. If you bring your ass back down here, I'm going to blow your motherfucking brains out. There was a pause, and that ended that. That ended that. Now we move on to years later, all right? I'm going into Tower City, and lo and behold, who's coming out of Tower City but Ahmad? This is about to be a good, I say maybe 10, 15 years later down the line. So we're talking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And I'm thinking, I'm saying to myself, should I give this man another chance? He seems to have changed and all, But then I found out through the grapevine that he really had not changed. He had hooked up with another person, and it had gotten to the point where they were known by the police. The police was constantly at Ahmad's house. And I realized Ahmad hasn't changed. So thank goodness I didn't try to follow through and see about us getting back into each other's lives. There are times when I still think about him. I wonder what became of him. But I realized that was one of the worst things I could have gotten, one of the worst relationships I could have gotten involved in at the time. I am 66 years old now. I think what is so beautiful is that the young people, the young generation, they have so many options, so many beautiful things. When I was born back in 1956, homosexuality was classified as a mental illness. You could be placed into a mental institution for the rest of your life just for being gay. That's no longer the case. I have lived to see young men and women, or older men and women, get married. That's a beautiful thing if they so desire. Now there's counseling. There's so many things that did not exist when I was born back in 1956. I commend this younger generation because they are something else. They are proud of who they are and they're showing it, and that I think is a beautiful thing. There is still a lot of stigma, still a lot of violence among gay people and transgender people. You know, hope in time that things won't be so bad, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Um, I currently am not involved in a relationship. I hope that does happen. I have not been sexually active for about 9 years, and that is by choice. Seems like the gay community seems like there's emphasis is always on sex, 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 sex. But for me, because I'm older, I want something more fulfilling. I know I like men. I'm attracted to men. So I want one that it won't just be a hookup. We get to know each other, and maybe, just maybe, we might spend our lives together if we're in that same mode, you know? I have did the cruising, et cetera, and all that stuff, and I'm tired of that. And plus, I'm old. I'm older now. You know, as I said before, I want something more fulfilling, you know, more satisfying. I'm open to race. Once upon a time, when I was younger, I would not even think about dating men out of my race. Oh no, no, no. But now I'm open because I could be missing out. You know, I could be missing out. So it doesn't matter what nationality is. Indian, Czechoslovakian, German, French, you know, Puerto Rican. It doesn't matter as long as we have some commonality. You know, that's why I look at it. My preference is men older, which is, I say 60 and older, you know, because I have something more in common. I don't have anything in common with a young person, you know, somebody 20, 30, or 40. No. Now, the interesting thing is that when I came out, when I was 22, 1978, I had a thing for older men. And the interesting thing is that that hasn't changed because I'm older and my preference is still an older man. I have to admit, though, I have a thing about beards and mustaches. That's a turn on for me. A man with a beautiful thick beard or even long beard and all that, that's a turn on. Um, his masculinity, that's always been a turn on, you know, and there it is. That's some of my likes, you know, big hands, big feet, you know. The type of man I like is the one that is just not putting on, but it's just being masculine. That's who he is, you know. Um, hey, as I say, it is what it is. Um, what I hope to see in the future is that the gay community will not have to be, you know, so fearful of violence and all that. You know, that they can be truly themselves, you know, without fear of whiplash, you know, if that's the right term, you know. But again, I say it's a beautiful thing because now so many things they can do that they could not do back when I was born back in 1956, and I think that is a beautiful thing. The different organizations that that exist now, no way in 1956, no way. Okay, on television now, you can see men kissing men, women kissing women, etc. I've always felt the women had it more easier because a lot of straight men have a desire to be in the bed with two women at the same time, even if they're gay. While it's more no, 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 no. To a straight man being in the bed with two men and all that. Oh no, 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 no. That would make him less than a man and all that. Anyway, getting back to the point is that now you can see that on television. Once upon a time, oh, no, 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 they wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare. The Catholic religion still has a problem with it, along with a lot of religious religions. But I hope that if that gay person is religious, that they're strong enough to realize that if you believe in a higher power, that he loves you no matter what. At this point in my life, I'm not sure about religion. I know the Baptist religion doesn't do anything for me. I used to be a Buddhist, but I haven't practiced that religion in a long time. So I'm not sure when it comes to religion. I just know that I'm gay. I was born this way. I'm going against the grain, and I have to be me. I can only be who I am. And again, I think about what my father told me is, son, live your life. And that's it.
Do you mind if I pick your brain a little bit?
Oh my goodness. Go ahead. I hope I can answer your questions.
Sure. I'll keep them easy. When you're 22 and you realize that you're gay and you like men, how did you find your way into that community? Did you have?
Okay, oh, that's an excellent point, and I should have told you that. How I found out, I was 18 years old. I had graduated from John Adams High School, class of 1974. It was a June beautiful night. My commencement was at Public Hall Auditorium. I was on my way home, and as I was walking, this guy was coming towards me. And he looked at me and said, "You just graduated from high school, didn't you?" I said, "Yes." He saw my diploma and all that. He said, "I tell you what, I'm going to take you to this place." Lo and behold, this place was called the Flair Bar. It was on Prospect, downtown Cleveland. And that was the first bar I've been to where I saw a bunch of men, okay? And men were dancing and all that. And I was just amazed. And I think I hung out with him for about an hour, maybe 90 minutes. And then I realized it was getting kind of late and I had to be home because I'm sure my mother would be wondering where I was. My mother or my father didn't go to my commencement, you know. And that's how I first found out about gay bars at the Flair Bar. That was the very first bar I went to. And then I started going, like I said, to other bars once I, but it was a while. Like I said, 18, I was the first one, but like I said, 4 years later, that's when I really started going to the bars, so yeah.
When you learned that, so you grew up during the time of HIV coming out.
Yes.
How aware of it were you before?
Okay, you've answered and you've asked a good question. I am HIV positive. Okay, I have been HIV positive now. Next month it will be 37 years. I found out when the test came out, which was in 1985. Prior to that, I had been hearing about this, quote, gay cancer, they were saying, and they were calling it GRID back then. And they were saying it affects gay men, and they were saying it affects gay bottoms, which I am a bottom, meaning I let the man penetrate me, fuck me, however you want to, the terminology and all that. And so I got concerned about that. And when I found out that the test was out there, I went to the Thomas McCafferty Health Center, which was here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's on Lorraine. And I went there. I got tested. The man said, "You have to come back in 2 weeks. You have to hold this slip of paper, and you got to keep it for 2 weeks." So I didn't give it any thought. I did not give it any thought. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared or anything like that. So I held that piece of paper for 2 weeks. I came back. He told me I was positive, and that's it. That is it. Again, we have to remember that was April of 1985. There was no medication out. But the thing about me, Cameron, is that I did not think about dying. Some people would have thought about dying and thinking it's a death sentence and all that. I did not. I said I want to live. That's all I focus on is living. I wasn't thinking about dying. I was not even mad about the person that gave it to me. I wasn't trying to figure out who gave it to me. I wasn't bitter or anything like that. I realized I was very accepting, you know? And I think about how it is now. I mean, oh, wow, there's so much medication that's out there now. There's so much counseling. You know, once upon a time, if you were HIV positive, that was a death sentence because if you were HIV positive, 9 times out of 10, you would develop AIDS, okay? AIDS. And a lot of people were scared of AIDS back then. I can remember going to visit a person who was in the hospital, at UH hospital, and on the floor, the nursing staff all was wearing this heavy guarded stuff and all that. The person had to take his tray outside. They wouldn't come and get the tray. And I think now, look how far we've come. Look how far. I am so glad, so blessed to still be here, Because I think about the ones that have gone on, I take my medication faithfully. I'm what's called undetectable, meaning undetectable, untransmittable. If by chance you have unprotected sex, you cannot pass the virus on to that person. A lot of people still don't understand that. There's a lot of stigma even in that, being HIV positive. That's another thing. Finding a male that will accept and have no problem with me being HIV positive. And a lot of men, when they find out HIV, you know, there's some people that still are afraid to sit behind on a toilet with another person that has HIV, or to even kiss a person that's HIV. Okay? But like I said before, they have come a long way, and I am so glad. I'm on Biktarvy, which is a 1-day regimen. They even got it now where if you want it, you can take your medication intravenously, you know? And I think it's once a month or twice a month. That's beautiful. Compared to, like I said, when I found I was positive in 85, there was nothing. When the AZT did come out, I remember my doctor saying, Doug, there is a medication out here, but it's very toxic, so it's up to you whether you want to try it or not. We are working on stuff down the pipeline. Now, you can wait on that. And that's what I chose to do. And as we come to find out, a lot of people taking that AZT, it wasn't helping them. It was just making them sicker and causing them to die quicker. Which is, hey. And I commend organizations like ACT UP in Cleveland who drew attention to the AIDS, okay, and made people aware of it, you know? They say what they want to say about President Clinton, but in President Clinton's administration, what I remember is that a lot of HIV medications started being approved. Prior to that, no administration even even mentioned it. No. Reagan didn't. Back in the 80s, Reagan did not. His wife, Nancy, is too busy buying China and sitting on Mr. T's lap and enjoying and giggling like she's a little girl, okay? They didn't even mention AIDS and all that back then. No, that was taboo, you know? The beautiful thing about now, it's open, you know? There's still work to be done, as always, but we have come a long way, and I am a witness to that compared to 1985, which I called the horror years. So I hope that answered your question.
When did you start on medication?
When I started on medication, okay, interesting story about that is my doctor wanted me to start earlier, and I said, if I get sick, then I'll start the medication. Well, lo and behold, I come to find out that I got Legionnaire's disease, which is a severe case of pneumonia. My doctor then said, you have to get on the medication. There's no ifs and buts about it. So I'm going to say, I want to say 2002, about 20 years ago. That's when I started taking medication. It's not the same medication I'm on now, but it was medication. I remember I had to take the breathing treatments and all that. I had lost weight. I think I was down to 115 or something like that. And he says, if you get an optimistic infection, you're not going to make it. So that's when I decided to get on the medication, okay? Prior to that, he did try to get me, to encourage me, but I said, no, I wasn't ready. But then I had no choice. I realize now I had no choice. And it's a good thing that the Legionnaire's disease didn't kill me, because as you know, men have been dying from that. That's how they found in that hotel and all that. I forget what city and state, and that it was named Legionnaires because the men were attending a convention, and all those men would develop this pneumonia, and they were dying and all that. So yes, I was one of the lucky ones to still survive that. So there it is. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. You mentioned that your dad was worried that you would start dressing like a woman, which
I thought
kind of silly.
Nowadays it was, but I couldn't fault him because what did he know? I mean, he's a straight man and all that, so that's the first thing he thought, and I guess that's what he thought might happen, because I'm sure he associated, and I'm sure he was a worldly man. He probably seen men dressing up like women and what have you and all that, but that's not my forte. I admire the ones that can do it, but I can't do it. It is too much work. It is too much work. You got to put on the wig. You got to put on the makeup. You got to put on the dress and the heels. Oh my, please. Oh my. I couldn't even get a second. No, I'm happy with what I got. Okay. I am glad I got a dick and nuts. Excuse my language. Okay. All right. I don't know how women can do it. The monthlies and oh my goodness. The monthlies and then the menopause and all that. Although men go through menopause too, I'm here to tell you, okay? We have hot flashes because I get them from time to time. So men do get hot flashes. But still, just the whole, oh my goodness, it takes so much to be a woman. And I admire women because I think they're the strongest sex because they have so much to deal with. Okay, they got to deal with their bodies and so many other things. Deal with being discriminated against by being women, not receiving the same pay as a man if they're doing the same work, etc. But I think they're stronger mentally because they're good at multitasking. Most men can't multitask. We have to do one thing at a time. Women, where, they got to take care of themselves. If they're working, they got to work, and then they got to come home, and if they have children, they got to feed the children, and then satisfy the man and take care of the man after everything has been taken care of, after they've taken care of the children, etc. So that's why I said they're good at multitasking, but no way. Like I said, it's too much work to be a woman. Oh, goodness. No.
Was drag part of the community, the Cleveland community, or was that?
Yes, it was. Like I said, they were called punks and funny and sissy. There go a sissy. But yes, I can recall there were areas that I was told where the gays would be plying their trade. There would be gay men that were selling their bodies to the men, just like a regular hooker. So there were areas in the community that I was aware of, like on Wade Park, and certain areas at 105 and all, So, but hey, but that was never, like I said, no. But I didn't get mad with my father when he told me that. I thought it was amusing, but I told him, you didn't have to worry about it,
Were there any drag performances at any of the clubs you went to?
No, you know what, Cameron? The interesting thing is that I didn't go to my first drag show when I was about, 50. That never really interests, never when I think about it. That never interests me, to a degree where, some gays constantly was involved in that scene, with, like I say, even dressed up and all that. But no. Now, the only time that I did dress up as a woman, it was when I was in high school. I was, 16. At that time, there was a popular show. I don't know. I know you're too young to remember this show, but it's called Laugh-In. You might have heard of it. Okay, Roy and Martin's Laugh-In. Well, my club, and my school rather, we decided to do the Black Laugh-In. Okay, so there was a commercial back when I was a teenager. It was advertising these sandwich bags called Glad bags. I don't know if you ever heard of it, probably not, but it was a commercial and it would advertise Glad bags. Now, the interesting thing is that the man would be eating the sandwich that his wife had fixed and put it in this plastic bag, and he would come out and put this and get the sandwich out the bag, and he would taste it, and he would say, "My goodness, this sandwich tastes hard as a brick," and he slammed it down. And next thing you know, you saw this guy, he come, man from Glad, you need Glad bags. Leak-proof, odor-proof Glad bags. So I decided, okay, at the Black Laugh-In, we're going to do a takeoff of this commercial, and we're going to call it the Man from Fag. Okay, so I play the fag. Okay, so I remember we rehearsing and all that. So I tweaked this little skit, and so I'm saying the guy who played the husband, he does the same thing. He said, this sandwich tastes like hard as a brick. And then I come in, man from fag, hi, dearies, you need leak-proof, odor-proof fag bags. Okay, so that's the only time that I dressed as a woman. Now, the interesting thing about that, which I'll never forget, is that one day I was in the men's room using the bathroom, and lo and behold, as I was washing my hands, this big corn-fed, I call it corn-fed when there's a muscle-bound, built guy, I think he was a senior. I know I was 16. I was a sophomore, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, you the guy that played that fag, ain't you?" He said, "Man, you got my dick so hard." I was kind of startled, and I hurried up and got out that bathroom, okay? Because I didn't know what that man would attempt to do to me, okay? Anyway, so there it is. So, and I'm thinking about some of the things that happened to me in high school. Another incident. I'm during that time period. I know I like boys and stuff like that, but I really don't classify myself as gay or haven't labeled it yet until, like I say, when I was 22 when I came out. I remember I had to go to night school because I was failing geometry. So my geometry teacher did not want to give me an F. He sent me to night school. So there again, I had to use the men's bathroom, okay? There's this guy. So I finished doing my business. I washed my hands. And there's this guy who I noticed has been perched on the sink. And he's looking at me up and down and all that. And he looks at me and he says, "Hey, shorty, you look real nice and all that." I'm short, I was less heavy than what I am now. And he said, "Why don't you come with me to California and join my stable?" I knew what he was talking about. He was a pimp and he was trying to get me to join his stable. I said, "Thank you, but no, I know I couldn't do that." He didn't give me a hassle. He didn't get mad with me or nothing like that. He said, "All right, Slim, have a good one." And I hurried up and got out there then. I'm so glad that I wasn't that whatever, curious and all that stuff, because who knows? I mean, hooking life, it was, anything can happen.
You talked about the clubs you went to, and the differences in the white clubs and the black clubs. Were there other type? Were they mostly dance clubs? Were there other type of clubs you went to?
It was either a straight club or a gay club, or like a lot of the straight clubs, I came to realize that there would be men there that would be cruising, men to take, straight men to hopefully pick up what have you and all that. Um, and there it is, you know. Um, I used to, like I said, for a while I was like heavy into the clubs, just about every weekend I would go, I would dance, and I was cruising too. I would cruise. When it comes to that, my preference for a man back then, my preference was what's called, quote, the straight man, where he's dealing with women as well, and he might, as the term goes, mess around, meaning he might be sexually involved with a man from time to time, So I dealt with that. I put up with that when I realized that, that was my preference at the time and all that. Now I do realize that with a straight man, they can know because he'll always have that desire to be with a woman. You'll be the one on the side. And in the past, I've dealt with relationships where I was that one on the side, and I realized now I want something more. I want something more. I remember I was involved with this guy, and I wanted to see him Christmas, but he was with this family and all that stuff, and I know, okay, I might see him maybe the day after, maybe, if for sure, maybe 3 or 4 days down the line, but never left on Christmas. So I got tired of that. I got tired of being the one that's on the side, and I wasn't happy, and I realized I was cheating myself. I was shortchanging myself, and no, I'm too old now. I'm 66 years old. I'm too old. I want to be something special in that person's life. I want to be number one. I don't want to be the one, the second one, or the third one, or whatever, and all that stuff. No. So there it is. Some, that's what they want. They don't mind and all that, but for me, no.
Were you ever discriminated against for being HIV positive or being gay or?
Okay, how I was discriminated against, the color, black. I remember years ago, this would have to have been in the 80s. And I was looking in the newspapers because I was unemployed at the time. There was this place, they were looking for, I can't recall what the position was and all that. So I called them, I said, "Are you hiring?" They said, "Yes." "What's the address?" I realized it was in Parma. So I found out how to get there. Okay. So when I got there, I'll never forget, I opened the door, there's 2 white men. I walked in and I said, "Hey, I just called. I'm here to apply for that position." And they looked at each other and said, "It's been filled." But I just thought, it's been filled. I knew what that was about. It was this. A lot of times people say that by my name, sometimes, as you know, some people, at least they used to, could tell if a person was black or white by their name. My name is Douglas Pratt, and Pratt is not a common last name for black people, okay? So it could be any nationality, okay? So there it is, okay? But yes, I knew what that was about then, okay? Another time I can recall 2 racial incidents, okay? A couple of them, really, okay? I was working as a movie theater cleaner, okay? We had to be there in the morning, about 8, okay? And work up until like an hour before the theater opened, okay? This was at the old Westgate Mall, okay? I remember I was working with a little crew we had. There was like 2 of us. So I asked the one guy, he's a white guy. I said, "Our boss said we have to clean what area again?" And he said, "You heard what he said, nigga." I immediately dropped what I was doing and I walked out. About 2 hours later, my boss calls me and he said, "Why did you leave?" I said, "So-and-so didn't tell you why I left?" He said, "No, all he said, you left." And I said, "Well, tell him." He called me a nigger. And he said, well, come on back. Come on back. I'll have to do your work. I realized that man was more concerned about him having to pick up my slack than him, other employee, calling me a nigger. Okay? And at first, the guy denied that he called me a nigger. He said, "Oh, he said he didn't call you a nigger." I said, "Yes, he did. I'm not coming back." Then he called me a second time and he said, "Yes, he said he called you a nigger and he was sorry." Okay. Another incident. I was on the bus. I'll never forget this one. I was on the bus, sitting next to this little baby. This baby could not be more than maybe 2.5, maybe 3. But the baby looked at me and it said, "N," and it couldn't say the rest. "N." And I looked at the man who must have been his father. I looked dead in his face and he turned bright red. Okay? A little baby. Okay? A little baby. All right? Then I remember another incident, and this happened here. I was actually, as I was leaving the library, waiting on the bus, a car full of young men, they were heading direction of downtown. They yelled, "Hey, nigga, what are you doing on this side of town?" Okay. Another incident, me and my buddy, we were on the west side of 17th and Detroit, waiting for the 26 bus to go west. A group of guys, again, called and say, "Hey, nigga." And he was so mad. I remember David saying, "If I had a gun, I would have shot at them men." Okay. So yes, I've experienced that. Okay. I remember another incident. Me and my same buddy, we were waiting at a bus shelter one time. There was this older white woman. She was there. So we're laughing and talking, having fun, and I'm paying her no attention. Next thing we look down, that older white woman has disappeared. We know what it was about. She became very fearful and intimidated by seeing two black men. We know that what that was about. Okay. Another incident, the white guy, he was like over here. And I'm saying, I'm going to get over this direction because that's the direction I'm going to go. And he goes, "Move over, nigga." And I said, "Fuck that shit. Okay, I'm moving in that direction. Okay, you take that racist bullshit somewhere else." Okay, so yes, I have experienced that. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. But I don't let that stop me, okay? Because like my father said and my mother said, nobody is better than anybody else. I don't care how much money you got or okay? Nobody is better than anybody else. Nobody. So, hey, and I believe that. I'm just as good as the next person. No. I refuse to no. You might have more money or whatever and all that, but no, you're not better than me. No. So I think that answers your question. So, okay.
You don't feel like you've ever been discriminated against for being gay or for being HIV positive, though?
I'm trying to think. Maybe one time, when I lived at this one place, and I think yes, I think I remember telling them, and I don't know why I told them, but I remember telling the landlord that I was HIV positive, and I realized that I don't know why I told him that. And then I'll never forget, when I went to pay my rent, the landlord said, "Will you stand right here?" He didn't want me to come towards him. And I said to myself, that's what that's about. I told him I was HIV positive, and he doesn't feel comfortable with me getting closer to him and all that. That's the only time I felt that I was discriminated against because I was HIV positive. Now you can't, because it's out there. You can't have a class lawsuit, okay? And that's the beautiful thing now. Back when I was born, okay, you could be discriminated against for being gay, okay? You could be kicked out of your apartment if you were found to being gay. Older men told me that. There was a time where if they found out you were gay, out you would go, okay? thank goodness I can say I never experienced that, okay? And the only time I ever felt that I was discriminated against because I was HIV positive was that, and that was back in, I say, what, 1980, I say 88. That's the only time. Other than that, no. My management, the office management, they know that I'm HIV positive because they ask for health issues and all that stuff on the application. So I list it, because you never know what might happen and all that. So it's best for them to be aware of it. The two people on my floor, I've told them about it, so they seem to be all right with it. So, but now when it comes to the issue, also, I'm changing the subject. That now, just like being gay, I don't feel like as it depends. It depends on the situation, and it depends on how you're coming off to me. If you're coming off negative, then I'll tell you, maybe I won't. Like again, but then now, like I say, just it's not really necessary for me to tell that the whole world I'm gay and all that. If you get to know me, you should be able to figure something out. If you don't see me around women or anything like that, then okay, then that should be a flag right there. So anyway, so yeah. So I hope I answered your question.
You told me earlier that you've lived in Lakewood for maybe 20 years now or so?
Yeah, it's been a while, since 1998, on and off. Yes. Yes.
Does Lakewood have a strong gay community?
I was told yes. It had, yes, that's what I was told, yes. In fact, when I first moved there, a person told me, they said, it's a gay community. That's what they said. They said Lakewood is known for its gay community. So I didn't know it at the time, but that's what I've been told, that Lakewood is, and hey, you know, but I like Lakewood. I grew up on the east side, and I moved on to the west side back in 1980. That was my first time moving on the west side, and I fell in love with the west side because now I spend more time on the west side than I do on the east side now. So I do go back, but not like, I'm basically on the west side. So I like Lakewood. Obviously because I'm still here and I'm back. Like I said, I'm back. So.
You talked about your religion a little bit. Did you grow up in the church?
I grew up. My interesting thing is that on my mother's side, her he would be her grandfather, my great grandfather, and his wife, my grandmother. They were founding members of this church, Second Tabernacle Baptist Church, on 119th and Kinsman. So my mother was raised in the church. In fact, my mother was a faithful member of that church for 71 years. Okay? So yes, I grew up in the church and all that. I started questioning it, especially when, the gay issue comes up, and I should not lie down with a man as does a woman, etc., and all that, and all that. And I just started feeling that it's not the right religion for me, the Baptist religion, So, and there it is. I think that answered your question. And like I say now, when it comes to religion, I'm not too sure. I might even be where I don't even believe in anything. I don't believe in that concept of the God and and the creation of man and Adam and Eve and all that, because they're always saying, well, two men can't live, Adam and Steve. Well, I disagree. God created Adam and Steve, so So anyway, I put that out there, and they look at me and all that. So anyway, but when it comes to religion, no, I'm not a faithful practitioner of anything currently. So,
is there anything else you'd like to say?
I'm thankful that this exists, that I commend you all for doing this. And like I said, they have come a long way. I can't emphasize that enough compared to when I was a kid. Back in 1956, 66 years ago, this would have been unheard of, okay? They didn't talk about homosexuality, There was enough to try to talk about birds and bees, as they said, that talk, okay? And that, okay? But, oh, no, you would know, no. So I'm proud that now you can basically be who you want to be, okay? And, So many young folks now, they don't have to be ashamed. Back then, nobody told me, nobody told me, about gay. I had to find out for myself. I had to. No one told me. I didn't have anybody that took me under their wings and say this, that. No. When I look back, no, no. So I'm just glad that there's so much out there now. Organizations dealing with young people being gay and all that, and they tell me now they get kids as young as 6 and 7. Then I say, wow. I would have been smacked and slapped. And I think about how back then boys dressed like boys, certain colors boys did not wear. You did not wear to school orange, pink socks, blue, and oh, no, 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 no. There were colors for boys and color for girls. No, 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 no. You could be sent home. When I think about that now, you could be sent home from school if a boy wore a purple. Okay, oh no. And not only that, but the ridiculous the laughter he would get, from everybody, So, whew, goodness, So.
Can you remember the first in the media, in the TV or somewhere, where you saw a positive representation of a gay person? Can you remember that when you first saw it?
Okay. Yes. Well, I would say they were dealing with it. That series called Soap. Remember Soap?
Yeah.
Okay. Billy Crystal played a gay person. And that's the first time I remember seeing a gay person on TV. Okay? That's the first time. And then maybe down the line there was a movie, I want to say, was it called Making Love? I think if I remember it was with Kate Jackson, and I forget who played the husband. But the husband was married and he came out to his wife. Okay? And she proved to be understanding. But if I would say Billy Crystal in Soap would be the first that I could recall. I could recall, and that was, I want to say, that was in the early 70s, And then there was a movie called Norman, Is That You? With Red Fox and Pearl Bailey, and but it was the father was being and Red Fox played the father, and he was being he is obviously he was being an asshole, doing the little remarks and all that stuff. But there again, it was an interracial couple, okay, and the son had came out to his parents, so that was, oh goodness, I think that was in the 70s too, Oh, you're making me think again. Okay, in a positive light, I'd say I commend the son for coming out. In a not so positive light, there was a Frank Sinatra movie that my father took me to. Okay, and in the movie, the gay character ends up getting killed. I remember that, and he gets called that word punk, and that's when I asked, and I had to be about 11 years old. And I remember asking my father what a punk was, and that's when he told me that was he didn't say, I think he said it was a sissy. I think he said that's a sissy, So I'm proud to say though, my father, and we had a couple of run-ins and stuff like that. Even when he was angry, my father never called me a sissy. Never. And I'm proud to say that. He never. I did have a family member call me a sissy one time. He was in the hospital, and I visited him, and I was fussing about, because he was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. He was a diabetic, and he was drinking alcohol, and alcohol turns into sugar and all that. And I was fussing, and I remember going to visit my grandparents, and he was my grandfather's brother, Uncle Bud, and I remember my grandfather said, Uncle Bud said he don't want you to visit visit. He don't want you to come back to the hospital and visit him again. And I remember my grandmother saying, tell him what he said, because he wasn't going to say it. But my grandmother was so insistent. She said, tell him I don't want that sissy to come back and visit me in the hospital. So I never came and visited him in the hospital. And I didn't even go to his funeral when he died. So he didn't never have to worry about this sissy ever again in his lifetime. So there it is. So I hope that answered your question there.
Yeah.
But that was a beautiful question, because but and then prior to that, that was, as we know, there's so many negative images about, and stereotypical. And the thing about it is, there's all types of gay men. Some are very flamboyant, some are very masculine, and gay men are in all types of profession. That's the thing about it. All across the board. Once upon a time, certain professions, you assume you were gay also. Being a dancer, even actors and all, certain professions, they say, okay, well, they wouldn't dare think a guy that's playing football and all, you're talking about just, or cooking and all that. So how far we've come, and I'm just 66, but how far we've come.